Hello everyone, and today we're back for another Loomian Legacy Top 5 video. We're going to be ranking all of the fossils from worst to best, and this will count all of the fossils you can find from the UMV. This counts the old fossils, the new fossils, and even the Titans. The only Loomians that won't count on this list would be Kirolen. So with that out of the way, let's head right onto this list. So number 12 onto this list, and the worst fossil in the UMV is Nautilus. Now, Nautilus is by far the worst fossil in all of Loomian Legacy. It's a ancient mine type, which is basically discount Cosmere. It does have some good range bulk, 115 range defense, and its ranged attacks is okay if you include it with the Watcher boost. But the problem with Nautilus is that the most it will ever do is get one KO and then get KO'd. It's really slow, and while it does have Bane of Haste, it kind of counteracts with its Watcher's boost. And unlike Knockout, who has Final Jab to heal up its HP, Nautilus has zero healing moves. It has no pivot, and it has no support options. All it has are the moves. It does have some good moves, though. Energy Break, Psycho Blast, and even Tsunami, which is good. But nothing else than that. You have Brain Exercise and Peace of Mind, but again, you have no healing moves. You don't have the best offense. And even your offensive typing isn't that good. Metal types wall you if you don't have Tsunami. So, Nautilus just is by far the worst fossil in the entire game. There's nothing it can do compared to other Loomians. And why would you use Nautilus if you can use Cosmere? So, yeah, Nautilus is by far the worst fossil in this update, and it's not even close. And yeah, it's not very a good Loomian either. Number 11 onto this list is going to be Infern. Now, Infern isn't a bad Loomian. In fact, Infern is pretty good. It has Burn Up to get rid of hazards, Draco Beam, Mud Spatter, Jet Stream, Power Napper, Pyro, very good range defense. There's a lot of good stuff with Infern, and it's honestly very shocking that Infern is the second worst fossil. The only reason why Infern is the second worst fossil is because of all the fire types in the game right now. Let's just say there's a thing called Pyrolen, Soulburst Crackalola, and Soulburst Eruptodon. If you want a full-out defensive option, you use Soulburst Crackalola. If you want a full-out offensive option, use Soulburst Eruptodon. And if you want to mix of both, don't use Infern, use Pyrolen. Every single fire type outclasses Infern, and it really sucks because Infern is pretty good with the Pyro and with the Power Napper ability. The only use it has is for semi-stall cores with Luminami, because you could use double Power Napper, but other than that, Infern pretty much has no purpose, which really sucks because Infern is pretty good. I do think it will get better if it gets a new move, but right now, there's no reason to use it compared to other range fire types. And that's why Infern is the second worst fossil in the game, despite having a lot of good features about it. And that's why it's in 11th. 10th place onto this list is going to be Knockout. Now, people might be shocked that Knockout is higher than Infern, but I do have a couple reasons. Knockout has Vital Jab. Vital Jab is amazing because this move actually hits the metal types Nautilus can't hit. And while it pretty much has the same stats as Nautilus, other than this thing having more melee defense and melee attack, Vital Jab saves Knockout. And while its defensive typing is overall worse, since your bulk is really good, you're almost always able to get your Wraithful plushie off and then heal your HP back with Vital Jab. This saves Knockout. And when you combine that with the Watcher ability that makes you even do more damage, makes Knockout very threatening. Even better, you have Primal Slash to hit those spirit types that Vital Jab can't hit. Now, the biggest flaw with Knockout is, one, its defensive typing is pretty bad, like I said earlier. And while it is used to your advantage, it can also be used against you as well. Not to mention, you're reliant on Vital Jab HP. So if you click Primal Slash to predict the spirit type, your Knockout is down to 51 HP, and it's very hard for it to get its HP back. Despite that, though, Knockout can be very threatening in certain situations, and unlike Nautilus, there's actually a reason to use this Loomian, so that's why it's number 10 on the list and not any lower, because this thing can be dangerous. Number 9 onto this list is going to be Doro. Now, this is very controversial. I had no idea where to put Doro at, because with Anomaly Draco Beam, this thing is very dangerous. It also has Scapegoat and Dodge, which that tech is very hard to beat. You also have 116 speed, meaning that you're a very good suicide lead. And you have Slapdown utility and hazards. Like, honestly, Doro has the potential to be a top 5 fossil, but it also has the potential to being the bottom 5 fossil as well. Because despite having insane potential, it doesn't have really good bulk, its defensive typing isn't really that good, and it doesn't have the highest attack stats neither. Like, 86 ranged attack isn't very good. You can run a mixed Doro, but you suffer from 4-move syndrome. There's a lot of flaws with Doro that does hold its potential back. But if you use Doro correctly, this thing can get very hard to beat. And this thing can put a lot of pressure on the opposing teams as well. So, Doro is actually a good fossil despite being the 4th worst fossil on this list. Because honestly, all of the fossils have their own niche. And that's what makes this list really hard to make. All the fossils are good at something other than Knocklegs. So, being the 4th worst fossil isn't the worst thing in the world. Because this thing is still pretty good. But there are 8 fossils that are slightly better than Doro. Number 8 onto this list is going to be Typhoon. Now, Typhoon could be lower than Doro because it doesn't have that insane potential. But Typhoon has that support. It has the petrifying ability, which reduces the range attack to the opposing Loomians. It also has Gust and Perch, meaning that it's an amazing Loomian for getting rid of hazards. And the Air Ancient defensive typing is really good. It supports Typhoon really well. This is a very good range tank, and it's also an air type that is very good against Soulburst Eruptodon, meaning no one is forced to run bulky waters anymore. That's huge. The biggest flaw with Typhoon, though, is its lack of huge potential. It has a niche. Be a good range tank, stun range attackers, and that's kind of it. That's its niche. Problem is, it does nothing outside of its niche. It doesn't really have any other options. It's not great offensively, and while it's solid defensively, it's not something that can live multiple super effective hits. So, Typhoon's pretty good as a support role, and it's pretty good as a niche tank as well. But other than that, Typhoon doesn't really have anything else. Its melee attack isn't too high, its other moves aren't great, although it does have Wave Wrecker for Soulburst Eruptodon, and Nosedive recoils yourself. So offensively, the Loomian really isn't that good, but its niche options puts it at number 8 on the list. Number 7 onto this list is going to be Lross. Lross is the fastest Titan out of the 3 with 150 speed. This Loomian also has Wave Wrecker, Mega Chomp, and Primal Slash, which is a pretty good offensive typing. We're going to talk about that about another fossil later on this list, but Lross is solid. It has a base melee attack of 100, which is decent, but not amazing. The biggest thing that can make Lross threatening, though, is its 150 speed and Hypnotize. There are pretty much no Loomians that can swap into a Hypnotize from Lross because it has Mega Chomp coverage to hit Mine types, and with Gargolem, you hit it with Wave Wrecker, which is very dangerous. But the reason why Lross is only number 7 and not higher, it doesn't hit hard enough. It doesn't hit hard enough without at least one bulk up and maybe even potentially a Rainfall plushie boost. And its bulk is pretty bad as well. It has 115 health, which is good, but its base defenses are both 55, which is very bad. And Pure Water defensively, while it is good, it's not as good as like Pure Water with something else. So there's just a lot of missed potential with Lross compared to other Loomians. And let's just say that there's another Loomian that's very similar to Lross that is a little bit better than it. And that's why Lross is just low, despite being a pretty solid Titan. But even then, being number 7 on the list is still pretty good for this stacked list. Number 6 onto this list is going to be Vanosaur. I had no idea where to rank Vanosaur because this thing has untouched potential. Brutal Wrath makes any Loomian that is poison critical hit, which is huge for Vanosaur because you have all 3 of the poison moves with this. You can poison barbs, and you can barb trap. You can pretty much poison any Loomian in any way, which can make Vanosaur very dangerous. But you can only one run of them, and you also don't have that much offensive pressure as well. You do have Mega Chomp for those pesky metal types, but air types are very rough. You can't really hit air types too well with Vanosaur. Not to mention that without the critical hits from Brutal Wrath, this thing is just a below average late game cleaner, and that's kind of it. I didn't know where to place this Loomian on the list. I didn't know if I wanted to put it on the top 5 because of Brutal Wrath critical hits, or bottom 3 because without the critical hits, this thing is not really good. But it still is a pretty good defensive typing. Its melee bulk is good, and while it doesn't have any way to heal, it's bulky enough to live multiple hits from a Tata, which is a nice niche. I think once Gargolem defense form is out of the meta, I think Vanosaur is going to be a very good Loomian. But as of now, I think it's just average. And that's why it's number 6 onto this list, and it's barely out of the top 5. Number 5 onto this list is going to be Skele. I did not expect Skele to be in the top 5 of this list. On my initial draft, I had Skele at number 9. This Fossils list is extremely stacked, and all of the Loomians from the 5 to 11 spot are extremely close to each other. But the reason why I put Skele at number 5 is because it basically is Lross, but better. Yes, it's not as fast as Lross, but it hits harder in its Soul Burst form, and when you have the Rain up and get a Drudge, this thing is pretty much unbeatable unless you have a Water type. That's what makes Skele really scary, is its Soul Burst form. Because even without the Rain, Soul Burst Skele hits a lot harder, and it has better bulk, meaning you can actually live a super effective hit. Even in this clip, it lives a super effective Radiant Rush from a Shyenta. Keep in mind, Shyenta has 100 power stab moves, so that's pretty impressive for a Soul Burst Skele to live a hit that well. And if you do get the Rain up, you outspeed everything in the entire game. And also, Drudge is just a way better setup move compared to Bulk Up. The biggest flaw with Skele is mainly water types walling you, but other than that, Soul Burst Skele is pretty tough to beat, and that's why it just barely made the top 5 on this list. So yeah, number 4 onto this list, and number 4 is going to be Hammeroff. Hammeroff was originally my number 1 pick, but after a couple discussions with other people, I decided to put it at number 4. This is basically discount Colossotrops. But that isn't a bad thing, because Colossotrops is a top 3 fossil. But Hammeroff is awesome. It has 150 melee attack. It has Timber Thrash, Primal Slash, Driving Force, and if you run an Earth-type team, you can use Expert Onslaught and do severe damage to the opposing Loomians. The Hammeroff is awesome, and it also has Slumber as a healing move for a defensive option as well. And that's what makes Hammeroff so good. It's even faster than Colossotrops as well, meaning that you don't have to use Baffle with the Hammeroff. The reason why it is out of the top 3, though, because like I said, I think Colossotrops is a little better than Hammeroff. It's close. They're both very good options, and they both have their different niches. But I think Colossotrops is overall a slightly better Loomian than Hammeroff. And we're going to see where Colossotrops ranks later on this list. But Hammeroff is awesome. It's the 2nd best Titan in the entire game, and the 4th best Fossil, and it's well-deserved. This thing is awesome, and I always love using Hammeroff, as you can see in this clip where I swept a team. So yeah, Hammeroff makes the number 4 spot on this list. Number 3 onto this list is going to be Jolto. Jolto is easily a top 3 fossil, and this thing is awesome. Ancient Electric is awesome. You have Thunder Crash, Primal Slash, Earthquake, and Drudge, and you have 126 melee attack. When you combine that with the Ambush ability, this thing is very tough to beat. And the thing that makes Jolto so tough is Drudge. You have Ambush and Drudge. What is the Jolto going to do? Is the Jolto going to attack you and do twice as much damage to you? Or will it click Drudge and outspeed you? You don't know. It's a crucial 50-50 that you're probably going to lose to. And that's what makes Jolto dangerous, because, you know, Electric Ancient Stab with Earth coverage is amazing. Now, yes, I did hear that Jolto is losing Earthquake, which could hurt it, because its next best move is either Place Slap or Bamboozle. But even then, after a Drudge, Jolto can be very dangerous, and it does have a couple niche options as well, like Bane of Haze. So, Jolto is awesome. And of course, after you get a Drudge, you can outspeed a lot of threats and then flinch them with the move Thunderclap. And that's what makes Jolto really scary. Cotton Stoops, this is his number 1 Loomian, but personally, I do think it falls a little short compared to the other 2 fossils on this list. But still, Jolto is an easy top 3 pick. Number 2 onto this list is going to be Morphezoo. Everyone considers Morphezoo the best fossil in all of Loomian Legacy, but there is a couple flaws that do hold Morphezoo out of the number 1 spot. But this thing is awesome. Has 150 range attack, 100 range defense, meaning it's very bulky on the range side, and it has some pretty good options. It also has Skyborn, which boosts its Sky-type attacks by 25%. And when you combine that with its coverage moves of Metal Blast and Psycho Blast, this thing can hit a lot of threats. But there is one crucial flaw with Morphuzu that a lot of people don't really get. It can't hit metal types. It really can't hit metal types. And I know there's Loomians like Glacidia that can break through them. But the difference is that Glacidia is a lot more threatening. And Tyranics, a lot of metal types are there to wall Tyranics. So a lot of people are running a lot of metal types at the moment. Not to mention, Morphuzu doesn't have any other coverage moves like Perch to heal its HP back. Or Barter to barter items away. It does have Hypnotize though. So if you do Hypnotize the opposing Loomian, you could get free Peace of Minds, and you could be very dangerous once you get rid of the metal types. And that's what makes Morphuzu really scary. A good speed stat, a good defensive typing, and great ranged attack puts Morphuzu at number 2 on the list. But it falls just short to the number 1 spot. But number 2 is still really good. Honorable mentions on this list, and the honorable mention we'll be talking about is Kirolen. Kirolen is technically not a fossil, but you can evolve it by reviving another fossil. So I at least wanted to talk about it. Has 137 melee attack and 82 speed. Very devastating wall breaker after a sharpen. But without the sharpen, it's a slot machine. You don't know what you're going to get out of it. But Kirolen is very dangerous and is a stall team's nightmare. So I at least wanted to mention Kirolen. The best fossil in all of Loomian Legacy is Colossotrops. Colossotrops just barely makes the number 1 on this list. It's better than Hammeroff, and it's the best fossil. It has a very good defensive typing, very good stats, very good bulk on both sides. Has bulk up, Brawn boost, Timber Thrash, Outburst, Rogue Assault, Earthquake, Mega Chomp. This is a Loomian that can hit every melee tank in the entire game super effectively, besides Swolder. And no one uses Swolder, which is kind of crazy. And with Vigorous, this thing hits even harder. One of the most common cores to run with Colossotrops is Baffle Colossotrops. You use your snack, you baffle into your Colossotrops, and you get a free KO. That's basically what Colossotrops does. But it's also not very predictable, because if you use a melee type attack on a Frail Armor Colossotrops, it gets a +2 speed boost, and it outspeeds everything in the entire game after a Frail Armor. And those would run Rageful Plushie, and the Colossotrops can sweep. And that's what makes Colossotrops the number 1 fossil in all of Loomian Legacy. It's unpredictable, it hits hard, and it has some awesome niche options. So yeah, here it is. Colossotrops, the best fossil in all of Loomian Legacy. This list took a lot of time to make, and I made a lot of changes to this list over the last couple days. And this list might change over time as well. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this list. And yeah, that'll be the end of the video. And I will see y'all all later. Bye-bye.